Greetings, Minecrafters. It's Nonsanity here, episode 23 of my Resonant Rise 3 Let's Play. I'm here in the Botania room still, and I've been making a bunch of changes, including simplifying and cleaning up some of the previous builds and adding some new ones. So let's get started. First, this thing is now condemned. It had a bug I discovered as I started adding more recipes. I fixed it, but it just got to be way out of hand. So let's take a look in here. Look at this. Now, all this out here, which looks sort of odd, is just placeholders for more recipes. You have air, water, earth, fire, spring. It would go around here to, autumn, winter, summer. Then I'll do all the 7 deadly sins down to the last one here. And then we've got some new stuff at the end. You may also notice that there's 4 nubs on each of these. They have labels now. Air. This is basically asking, can we make the air? Well, if you can't, it goes out the fail. If you can, it goes out the in progress, because we are now making the air. All the in-progress ones go into this, which is a pass. Pass goes straight through to the other in progress. So as it comes down here, can we make air? No. Failed. Can we make water? No. Failed. Can we make earth? Yes. We're now in progress making earth. Pass, pass, all the way around. It'll fall through all the passes, and then it'll come down here and do these 3 things. So that is a little bit of extra wiring. And you get those extra nubs just by adding another node. Now I've named my nodes. This is still a regular node. I've just renamed it to be air, and that's what shows up on the nub on the outside. And here's the pass, here's the fail, and here's the in progress. So we used to just have this little branch over here with one more, an output right here. But that output is gone. So it's here, it's coming in on the air nub. It's checking to see if we have all the ingredients necessary to make an air rune. If we do, it grabs all those resources from the chest, and it used to output them to the valve, the item valve, so they could be dumped on the altar. But now, it just goes through this flow, which is one of these things, a flow control, which basically just combines into one. It doesn't actually do anything. Just both these paths now come out the bottom here. And then this is the node that it goes out the bottom. So it's not doing the output here. Alright, so we go back out. We fell down here to earth. We can do earth. We go out the in progress. We pass through, and as I said, if it comes in the pass, it just goes straight out the in progress. So it falls through all of these, and then it gets to this. This one, it is getting from the input chest some bricks. You say, well, why bricks? Well, this is just, it could be anything. I just picked bricks. It's pulling those out of the input chest. They live here in the input chest all the time. They're just there. And then they get put into a new chest, the lock chest. That is that wooden chest right there, which is normally empty. It moves the bricks to the wooden chest, and then it does the old output that we're used to. And this is a little bit too low down the screen here. To the valve. So those items that it's collected here in the earth have been held onto, and they're only now at the end being dumped out after the brick was moved to the wooden chest. So why are we moving this brick to the wooden chest before we output the items to the altar? Well, because right up here, no, not here. Here. This is the trigger that would pick up the runes when they're finished. It goes to the item valve and it picks up any of the runes that exist, right? Well, the problem is, once we got through all the air, earth, water, fire, and started doing the other ones, all of these recipes require runes as input. So what was happening is, as soon as these were tossing out the runes, this was picking them up, and it wouldn't, or sometimes it would pick it up, and it wouldn't get used in the recipe, and the recipe would break, and the whole thing would lock up. So now I've added this condition to our pickup trigger. And all it's doing is looking inside the lock chest to see if the bricks are there. If they aren't, it'll go ahead and pick up runes. But see, now when we've made our recipe, we say, oh, we're making earth rune. We move the brick to the wooden chest, and then jump out all our runes and stuff. Well, if we're doing the spraying, we'd be dumping out some runes. So at the time we dump the rune out onto the altar, the brick is in the wooden chest. And so this would be true. The brick is in the wooden chest, so it's not going to do these. It's not going to try and pick up the rune. Over here, after it's checked to see if we have a redstone signal coming out of the altar, which means it's doing something, is it 2? 2 being it's ready for the living rock. So this would normally be where it throws out the living rock. And yet, the first thing it does, is it goes to the lock chest, takes everything out of it, and puts it back in the input chest. So it's basically taking the brick out of the wooden chest, putting it back in the input chest, and then it tosses the living rock out onto the altar. Now at this point, it's safe to move the brick back because the runes have already been absorbed into the altar and it's been doing its work. But now we're about to toss out the living rock, and once we do that, a new rune will appear, and we want this to run again. So we basically unlock the chest with the we move the brick out of the wooden chest. If it's not in the wooden chest, it'll go back to picking up. So this works. But it's complicated, and look, I still have to add all these other runes, and you have to enter all their ingredients in twice, and it's a bit of a mess. This whole design has the advantage, when you're doing it manually, is I can dump in whole stacks of ingredients in here, and it will properly do one at a time, because all the smarts of those recipes are encoded into the program. But once you hook this up to applied energistics, you can tell it to only put one recipe's worth of one item's worth of recipe items in here. So just one of each. Let it make one, then put one of each again to make the second one if you're ordering lots. Once you do that, you don't need to have all this in here. And so I simplified it. Here is my new Runic Altar setup. It's a lot prettier too. There it is down there. I've got an Elven mana spreader just because it's fancier. Why not? I don't really need the speed, but I even gave it a lens, so it's really fast. And I gave it a green tinted, so everything looks green. Otherwise it comes out pink by default. Got a mana pool up here with a spark that likes to sometimes jump up. And it has a dominant augment on it, which means it's going to be pulling from all of these pools, at least half of them. I know it can reach the center pool from here, which is the main one. That's why I moved it over here. Well, plus I wanted to show you that before I showed you this one. Now this one is hooked up to the applied energistics. So let's go ahead and look at our runes. I've got a little bit of everything because I tested them all. But let's go ahead and order a Rune of Greed. So I'll hit Option or Alt if you're on Windows, and say, yeah, 1 Rune of Greed, please. Now you see, it's putting out the items one at a time. It's 2 runes and 2 mana diamonds is the recipe. There, it's done. Works pretty well. Now, because it's part of Applied Energistics now, let's see, the Rune of Gluttony. What is its recipe? It uses fire and winter. Winter uses, let's get the recipe for that one, water and earth. So if I were to take out all of the waters and all of the winters, now if I asked to make the Rune of Gluttony, it'll say, all right, I don't have the winter, so I'm going to have to make one. But the winter requires water, and I don't have a water, so I'm going to have to make one. It will do this. It will do this just fine as part of... And I did get it. So there it's making the water rune. It's got the fishing rod in it. So there it goes, making the water runes. Takes a little bit more mana, because you get 3 of them. Now it's going to make the winter rune. Yep, there's the cake. And we should see the water coming around at some point. Unless it gets finished first. It did get finished first. So now it's got the winter. And now it makes whichever one of the 7 deadly sins this was. I forgot already. All one at a time. So, you think, all right, what does this program look like? Let's go down and take a look. This is all we've got underneath. This inventory cable goes up, comes up the back, and straight across here, this piece of, this is graphite blocks. That graphite block straight ahead of us is not a real graphite block. That is one of the Steve's Factory Manager's item valves in a advanced cable cluster along with a camo block. So how does that work? Well, let's look at the recipes here. Manager. You make a cable cluster, which is just, let's get the recipe for that, an inventory cable with some ender pearls. But then you combine that with 8 more inventory cables. So it uses a lot of these to make one advanced cable cluster. You also want to make the cable camouflage, which is an inventory cable with red, green, and blue wool. And I was using another one of the rapid item valves. You take the advanced cable cluster, put it in your crafting grid, along with any of the other pieces you want to combine. In my case, the cable camouflage and the rapid item valve. Put those 3 together in a crafting table, and you get back your advanced cable cluster. But well, this one, the tooltip says empty cluster. Once you've crafted it with other pieces, it will list all those other pieces there, and it accesses all of them together, including a basic inventory cable. The one below it is another cable cluster with the camo, but that's it. And I made that so that it looks like these plastic blocks. Now, how do you get them to look like things? Well, let's go down to our Machine Inventory Manager. I'm going to open up the script. It's going to look a lot simpler. It's a lot simpler, isn't it? Well, over here is the cable camouflage. You pick which block. I didn't bother with variables for these. You pick which block, and then you pick... you set this to set camo, and you click here, and then you find whatever block you want it to look like. Connect that up. You only have to trigger it once, and then you can disconnect it. And it will have set that camouflage. So they're disconnected, but I left them here in case I need to break them, place them back again, and then recover their camouflage. So I don't have to recreate these. They're just here. So we've got our input chest variable, output chest, valve, an activator, and redstone. So this activator is one of the new features. This solves some of the problem. We have an autonomous activator here with a wand in it. We had that before, right? It was just underneath, constantly clicking. But we're going to do something more with this thing. It's attached to the, right there, another piece of the inventory cable. You see it going up there. That one's inventory cable too, even though it says block of plastic. That's the camo working. So it is attached to the inventory cable, so we can access its inventory from our program. So here's what we do. On one trigger, we go to the input chest, and we take everything except living rock. All right. Oh, what's in the chest? Well, here are all the recipes for all the runes, including, you know, see everything that goes into making them in both of these 2 interfaces. And both of them up here. This is very important. There are 2 settings. Blocking mode and, well, they're both, it's called blocking mode. This one, ignore the contents of the target inventory. This is the default when you set up an interface. What you need to do is click it once to be like this. Do not push crafting items if inventory contains items. So if there is anything in here, don't put anything in. It's going to just wait, hold off with the items it needs to craft with until this is empty. Then it'll put in 1 crafting's worth into here. So if it was making the rune of Spring, it would put in, fire and air, or water and earth. I forget what it is. Water and earth and the other things, and the living rock. It'll put in one of each, or however many the recipe requires, and that's it. It won't put in the next one if you've ordered 100. It'll only put in one's worth. All right, and then we've taken out everything but the living rock, and we've sent it to the activator, which means at that point there's still living rock in here. So it's not empty, so these interfaces won't put any more stuff in there. They'll still be waiting. That's important. We have to leave that living rock in there. Now, if all the items are up in here in the autonomous activator, instead of just clicking the altar with the wand, it's now going to click the altar with all the other items, which puts them into it. That's why you were seeing them appear one at a time, because you can right-click the altar with an item, and it does the same thing as dropping it on top. But the nice thing is, because we're not dropping things on top, there's no possible way the rapid item valve could pick them up again before we're ready. So we can right-click it with a rune instead of dropping the rune on top, and it can't get picked up. That's the important part here. That's why I'm using the autonomous activator. We still do have the rapid item valve, because that's how we pick up the final results. And also, the living rock itself cannot be right-clicked. You can't right-click the living rock on the altar when you're ready to finalize the crafting. It actually has to be dropped on top. So, over here, we check the redstone, activate the redstone monitor, to see if it is a value of 2. That means that the altar is ready for the living rock. And then, just as you'd expect, we take the living rock out of the input chest and we put it into the item, the valve, which dumps it on top. The wand clicks and you get your final output. And then this one here in the middle goes to the valve, picks up any of the runes it can see, and puts them in the output chest. That's it. It's done. Now, the redstone signal, notice we got a new thing down here. You may have noticed it. This is the remote comparator from Automagi. There are other ways of doing this. One of the commenters mentioned the red string aspect of Botania. But I wanted to try these out. I'd never done anything with Automagi. So basically, you put this thing down. I can pick it up. Put it down again here. Doesn't matter which way it faces, but I like facing it in. Now this crystalline eye, I go up and I right-click the altar with it, and then I bring it down here. I think if we hover over it, yeah, it shows you the coordinates of what I right-clicked with, and it says Runic Altar, and even how far away it is. It's very nice. Now you can right-click here and put it in. So now whatever redstone signal the Runic Altar is giving out, this thing will also give out. And I've laid out some redstone here so you can see what the signal strength is. So let's order up a rune. Let's order a rune of mana. Start. Now we'll listen. It's dropping the items out. We'll hear the burst as it powers up. There it is. It's working, so it's 1. When it's ready, 2. And then it's done. So you see, at first it was just 1 signal. It was getting pumped with mana. When it was full of mana, it went to 2. And that was the signal for this thing to go ahead and toss out the living rock and finalize the craft. And that's it. Chest, input chest, output chest. I just moved the redstone down here. Probably, actually, now that I think about it, yeah, that block of plastic right behind the altar, if I had added to that cable cluster the this redstone receiver, I wouldn't even need this. It'd be even simpler, because I would be sampling it oh no, I'm not sure I could sample it straight away. I think you do need a comparator. Yeah, you do need a comparator. It doesn't. The Runic Altar doesn't output a redstone signal, but the comparator will if attached to it. So this is acting as a comparator for it. So yeah, we do need this. Well, there, I thought I could make it even simpler, but no. So that is the new automated Runic Altar. Looks good, works great. and I like the design. So I decided, all right, I'm going to duplicate that design over here for our petal apothecary. So it's got the same look to it. So let's hop down under it. And even down here, it's sort of similar. The item inventory cable coming down to our machine, our inventory manager, with an input chest and an output chest. We have the same autonomous activators clicking this tank with empty buckets and then piping them up through the top to this guy where they sit. Never put more than like 9 buckets in here. You don't need more, and if you put too many, it will jam. So you want to, have one empty so there's room to move. And then if it fills up the petal apothecary, it'll send the empty down here to be refilled. Same as before. Its program is even easier. Again, I have some cable camouflage to hide the valve that's up there. It's in the same spot right there. That's the item valve. And the block behind it is also a camouflaged inventory cable. So I have those camouflages down here also disconnected. This one is very simple. It inputs from the item valve. So the first thing it does is check to see if we have any finalized results, any of the flowers. But it'll look for anything, so I don't have to worry about programming all the different flowers in here. If it sees anything, it'll grab it. And it'll send it to the output chest. After it's checked for the output, it goes to the input chest, looks for anything in the input chest, anything at all, and sends it to the item valve. That's it. We still have this blocking mode, do not push crafting items if inventory contains items, for all of our flowers. So even if I asked for 100 day blooms, it'll only put one set of ingredients in here. Because the petal apothecary is so fast, it can just grab all those ingredients and dump them on the altar. It'll immediately be refilled with new ones, but the trigger has a 2-second delay. So it won't go back and looking for these right away. Instead, it'll wait 2 seconds, and then it'll pick up the results of the craft, then get from the chest and output to the valve again. So let's go ahead and go up here and give it a try. Come on. Oh, there we go. So let's see. How many day blooms do I have? I got 3 in the system. Let's ask for 3 more. Oh, I'm missing some orange mana petals. So flower. I do need to get my auto crafting set up, and that will probably be the next thing I do. Okay, so day bloom. Make 3. Go. See, there's a 2-second delay before it wraps around and picks up the end result. There, just like that. Works great. Very nice. I also went ahead and I automated the agglomeration plate, which only does one thing, TerraSteel, as far as I know. It was a little bit more difficult. Where's its hatch? There it is. Again, I'm using the same pattern. You can see that's the edge of one of the pieces, not the actual agglomeration plate. The agglomeration plate is directly above me here. I've got an input chest, output chest, but I also have this wooden chest. This is a lock chest. And again, always set to blocking mode. Always set to, don't put anything if it's... All right. This one has a bit more conditions. Again, we've got the camouflage because, once again, we've got the item valve. Because we want the stuff to fall directly on top of the agglomeration plate, that block of plastic between these two slopes, that block right there is the valve. It outputs straight in front of it. I've got this piece of slope glass to stop everything and so it falls straight down. I've also got the whole thing filled in with glass. The glass is on top of all of these spaces around the middle. So it's basically a chimney of glass. So I guess I can probably get rid of that slope and just replace it with a regular block. See, this is quite clear. So let me get another piece of quite clear glass. Oh, got far more than I meant. There we go. So put it there and there. Okay, so now it just chucks it out and drops it down. Because I can't do one of these as inventory cable, the valve connects to inventory cable that goes back out around the wall and then down again. So it's a little bit longer, but it works. And it comes down here. All right, so into the program. I think we start here. So let's do the condition. Unlock chest. All right. Like I said, I call it a lock chest, but really it's an unlock chest. If this piece of stone is in this wooden chest, the system is unlocked and ready to do something. If that piece of stone is moved over here, then the system is locked and it's busy. That's the rule. So it's going to look for the piece of stone in the unlock chest. If it is there, we're unlocked, and we can continue. The next thing it checks for is the inventory chest to see if any of these three items are all there. Because this thing only does one recipe, I went ahead and encoded it with the recipe, because it does improve this program a little bit. Mainly because we don't know how long it's going to take. So if all three things are there, grab them from the unlock chest. Go to the unlock chest, take the piece of stone out of it, and move it to the input chest. That locks the system. So this is sort of like my fix over on the first Runic Altar. I'm using the same technique. So lock the system by moving the piece of stone. Now we can go get the ingredients from the inventory chest, except the stone. Don't pick up this piece of stone, because we just put it there. Leave it there. Take everything else and chuck it through the valve. So that will drop our three ingredients onto the agglomeration plate. Once that happens, it's going to start sucking mana from the system. And when it's full, it's almost instantaneous. It takes like a second or less to convert everything. Right now it's busy. I gave it more empty tablets to fill. So there's not a lot of mana available, but it would get, because it's dominant, it will get priority, and it will fill eventually. Actually, let's go ahead and order up a piece of Terra Steel and see how fast it works. Yeah, it's much slower now, because it's just not getting that huge burst of mana when the system's idle. So because we don't know how long it takes, we have to use that locking chest. And because we've moved the piece of stone down into here, this chest isn't empty. So even if we had asked for 100 of these, there, it's done. If we'd asked for 100 of these, the ME interface would be waiting until it was empty, which it now is because it'll be finished. So let's look at that side of it. Over here, we're looking at the valve, and we're waiting to see if Terra Steel shows up. Once it does, we know we're done. So we can go to the valve, get the Terra Steel, and put it in our output chest. But now that we've done that, we need to unlock the system so we can start crafting the next one. So, of course, we go to our input chest, take out the piece of stone, and put it back in the unlock chest. So now the system is unlocked. And it's ready to accept more stuff from the ME interface, if more was ordered. So that's the automation for... there we go. That's the automation for the agglomeration plate. I did one more piece of automation. I did this guy. I think he's looking about as good as I can make him look using the same style. Moved him back a little bit so I got a bit more room to walk in front. That's nice too. So let's look at him. Again, very similar design. The only difference is I moved the ender chest here because this puts it directly under the center of the portal. That way my radius can be kept to, actually it'd probably be 1. 1 radius, an X and Z, and 6 vertical. That way it does just a 3x3 area here and a column up and down, so it doesn't get anything outside. I've pushed this thing right up against the back of the wall here, and I've got glass in front of it. The item valve is that piece of graphite right there in the back, so that's where the stuff gets dumped in, and also where it gets sucked out. Now I've got a autonomous activator here, but I've set it up so that it'll only start clicking with the wand when it has a high signal. That way, if the portal shuts down, let's go up here and shut it down by breaking that. Now see, if the autonomous activator was always running, it would immediately reactivate it. And the only reason this would turn off normally is if these things ran out of mana, which meant my whole system is running short on mana. So don't try and reactivate it. As soon as it gets a little bit of mana to do it, wait until we need it. So the idea is when I order something, let's order some pixie dust. Give me 1 pixie dust, please. It will turn it on only then. Get our conversion. I can't turn it off. I don't know of any good way to turn it off. Maybe a piston on one of these things, moving it and putting it back again. That would probably work. But I'm not too worried about leaving it on. It doesn't take a lot when it's on. I've got lots of mana. So let's look at the program. Again, with this thing, we don't have to worry about the blocking mode. We can leave it. We can dump the whole contents of this stuff. When you dump things in here, it will spit them out one at a time anyway. I can dump a whole stack of mana steel in there, or 2 stacks, and it will slowly give me the elementium back one at a time. This one's very simple because of that. Anything we receive in the input chest, anything at all, just send it up to the item valve. That's all we do. Send it up to the item valve. Anything that comes in the chest, send it up. Give it to the elves. So don't put anything in this chest manually that you don't want to lose if it's not something that they accept, because they'll eat it. But as long as we're only using the applied energistics, only the things we've programmed for will ever be going in there. And then over here, we're looking at the item valve for any of the things that it outputs. And if they're there, we're going to use our redstone emitter. All right, redstone emitter. Where is it? It's right there. This advanced cable cluster doesn't have camo because it's not seen. But as you can see, it says redstone emitter in the whale up at the top. I'm using a cable cluster so that it counts as a piece of inventory cable. Because directly above it is cable leading up to the item valve. So I could have gone around the back with 3 more pieces of inventory cable, but it was easier just using a cable cluster, because then it passes the signal. Oops. Pushing the wrong buttons. There we go. But this autonomous activator will then get that high signal it needs to activate, and it will click. So, you see what it's doing here. This is looking for the ingredients, the raw ingredients. So if we make an order, and it tosses out, a mana pearl, so we want more pixie dust, and that mana pearl is sitting there, when this trigger fires, it'll say, hey, the raw ingredients haven't been taken by the elves. I think the portal is off, and it pulses. Yeah, that's the thing. I set it to do emit pulse for 10 ticks. Normally it comes like that, but you say click, do it as a pulse. So it only fires up for 10 ticks, half a second, and then it goes dark again. Fixed, that's the default. Full strength, that's the default. Sides, I don't care which side. And I've picked the emitter using the variable I made for it. But it's just a pulse for 10 ticks. That's enough to get it to click it with the wand, which will reactivate it. So it's not trying to click it all the time. Probably doesn't hurt, but I wanted it so that it would stay off if it got shut down until we actually need it again. So all the ingredients come in here. They're all dumped out the valve. The advanced item collector up here has a filter in it where it has all of the things, excuse me, where it has all of the things that it knows it can pick up. I probably could have just left it without a filter. It doesn't really hurt because I've got it so narrowly set into that column that it really can't pick up anything else. Oh, well, no. No, I do need it because I don't want it to pick up the ingredients. The mana diamonds and the mana steel, you don't want it to pick up those. You only want it to pick up the final product, so you do need that filter, excuse me. Alright, and that is the elf portal. We're not done here. I need to tear this down and build a few more things. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. Alright, I've had to do a number of different designs for this. It's actually the next day now, but let's get started real fast here. I've got the alchemy catalyst and the conjuration catalyst with a pool on top of them. That's what gets them to work. They each have a spark with a dominant augment on it. Out here, I'm going to put in the middle a advanced cable cluster that just has camouflage. Oop, not there. And I broke a piece of glass too, but that's alright, I'll fix it from the front. That goes there. And then I have two advanced cable clusters with camouflage and a rapid item valve. Those go there and there. Now we can pop back in here, get some regular inventory cable, and run that down to our inventory manager with our two input chests, one for each of these guys. And that's just connected up to my AE system. That's all I've got so far. So let me put this piece of glass back in. I don't have a piece of that glass. No, I do. That is the right glass. The borderless glass, which I'm using here on the on the carpenter's blocks. If I break it without silk touch, and unfortunately this thing doesn't have silk touch, I don't get it back. But the quite clear glass I can. So I have 28. I've got 29, so I can get that back. But I can't use the quite clear glass on carpenter's blocks. I can use the borderless glass, and they look pretty much the same, so I'm switching between the two depending on which way I'm doing it. Alright, so first I need to add the camouflage to those things. So let's go in here. Lag. Hopefully that won't be a problem in here. We will see. So first the camouflage. Oh, they're all three are going to get the same camouflage. So I can select all three. Set camo, graphite, this one, hook it up, and I don't need it anymore. I could even take away the Steve's Factory Manager now, and they would stay looking like regular graphite. So they're completely hidden now. Excellent. Now, this guy, the Conjuration Catalyst, if we look at its instructions, the Conjuration Catalyst will take one thing and turn it into two. Now, there's lots of different things. You know, want more redstone, you can double your redstone at the cost of some mana. The problem is, there's two problems with that. Applied Energistics, if I were to create a pattern here, I think I've got it, there it is. One redstone creates two redstone. Now that that's in the system, it's not going to do anything. I'll just put the redstone into the chest. But if I go in here and I say, give me one redstone, I can't. This breaks Applied Energistics. It doesn't understand that there's two different things here, an input and an output redstone. It's combined them into one, and it's thinking, I've got the one available that I need, but I need to craft two more. Well, that's what you're using the one for, but it doesn't know that. So you can't do any of the recipes with the Conjuration Catalyst using the crafting from Applied Energistics. Not just like that. You'll have to do it differently. So I'm not going to be able to do that, or the soul sand. This one I can put over here. This turns rotten flesh into leather. Two different things. That works. The other problem with the conjuration catalyst is the drops, or what it outputs. What it's outputting is the same as what it's inputting. So if I tell this system to suck up all the redstone that gets created, it can't tell the difference between the redstone that's going in and the redstone that's going out, just like Applied Energistics. I could do it, and I did have it working for a little while, but decided not to go that route. I used a hopper hawk, the flower from Botania, which acts as an item collector, and open crates, which would drop the items. If you give the open crates a redstone signal, it'll prevent the hopper hawk from picking it up until after it's been converted. And that works, except the hopper hawk was picking things up way over here. Its range was huge. I didn't want it just indiscriminately picking everything else up in the area. Even if it had a bit of a delay, it was not long enough for my magnet to pick things up if I dropped stuff. So I didn't like the hopper hawk, so I got rid of the whole Botania specific way of controlling everything. So instead, I'm going to go back to Applied Energistics and just not do any of those duplication recipes in that way right now. In the meantime, I'm going to start setting up this program, and I will be right back. Always make sure you place the item valves from the side that you want them to output to. Otherwise, it's chucking the stuff outside. Hook this back up. Alright, so here's a program. We have a right input chest, left input chest, the output chest, which is up here. We have the right valve and the left valve. This one inputs from both left and right valves. I just combine them. Everything that any of this stuff can make. So it's all there. Specifically said everything it can make. That I'm going to make. A lot of these things I don't ever really need. Like I've got plenty of redstone, glowstone. I don't need to convert. So it's just picking up the ones that I'm going to make programs for or recipes for in the Applied Energistics system. And then it's outputting it to... wasn't outputting it to anything. I wanted to output the output chest. Did I select it here? I did. That was a mistake. Over here, it's picking up everything from the right chest. There we go. The right input chest. Blacklist. So it grabs everything and it outputs it to the right valve. And this one gets it from the left chest and puts it in the left valve. Very simple. Very straightforward. So hopefully now that I've got those facing the right direction. Oop. And that bit of glass there. And actually, go ahead and put glass in between them. Now I should be able to ask for leather. And I'm at 580, so let's ask for 20. Oh, did I not put that recipe back in? No, it's there. Oh, I probably didn't have to clear out the previous recipe that chucked them outside. Let's cancel that. Alright. Leather. Make 20. Go. Oh, and the... it's not running. And this didn't work. Oh, I need to set them. That's right. Container, because I broke them and replaced them. This is the right one. On the right is 30. So the right valve is this one. There it goes. And the left one is 32. And the camouflage also needs to now point to those. Alright, so I heard it run. Let's look at our leather. 600 leather. Alright, so let's make 200 more leather. I don't have enough. Yeah, I do. Alright, so leather. I have 600. Let's make it 800 by adding 200 more. Go. You can see mana flying over. Alright, I think that works. Suppose I can put... Yeah, that one has to be in this chest. If I ask for mana steel, which I don't have a program for, it'll go to the other one. So I think that one's working now too. At least as far as it can, given the limitations currently. If I can think up a way, or if anybody else can think up a way to get Applied Energistics able to order things like more redstone by duplicating the redstone, let me know. But I don't think it's possible with Applied Energistics straight up ordering like that, you know, asking for more redstone. What I might end up doing is having a chest over here that I can dump some redstone in and it'll make more. That's a possibility. So we'll see about that. Have to be a little bit manual then. Alright, well that wraps it up. I'm going a little bit over long here. But I wanted to finish the last of the Botania items. So now everything in here is automated. The only thing I might still come back to later is the potion making in Botania, but I don't need the potions really. Until I do, I'll leave that for later. I don't think I mentioned it, but I did want to say these vines, I put them up here for the looks, but they were spreading around to the sides, and they were dripping down from they were splitting onto this and then dripping down through the air. It was making a big mess, but now, if you notice that they're all very nicely behaved, and they're not doing anything. That's because you take 9 vines, you know, harvest them with shears, get 9 of them in a crafting grid, and you get a ball of vines from Botania. And if you look up here at the Wayla, this says Botania Solid Vine. All this is Botania Solid Vine, except these middle ones, which are regular vines. So you take that ball of vines and you throw it right here, and then it'll paint a ladder basically down to the ground of vines. That will not spread. That's the key thing. I could put regular vines in the middle here because they won't spread. I also use the ball here to create this one vine so it won't spread up this wall. These are regular vines because they have nowhere to spread to. So I just did it that way around, and it makes it a lot more controlled in where the vines are. Pretty nice. So, got to wrap it up here. But next time I think we're going to do Applied Energistics system. I'm going to get it moved where it needs to be. I'm going to start in with regular crafting using Applied Energistics. I really haven't done any of that. In fact, all of this crafting is based off of the one little crafting CPU I have underneath the blood altar. I just have that one CPU with a 1K unit. That's all, but that's enough for running all these one at a time. But I need to get it all going. I'm probably also going to do a tutorial video on Applied Energistics crafting at the same time. So expect that soon. So I'll wrap it up here. This is Nonsanity signing out. Take care, be good, and see you next time.